Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rambling Through Everyday Life with Fran and Angela. My name is Fran, and I am one of the co-hosts for this podcast. You guys, it is finally time. We are here to talk about all things Italy. Welcome back, Angela. We have missed you, and we are all ready and eager and excited to hear what you have to tell us about this amazing trip with your daughter, Kaylee. All right, you guys, sit back and enjoy the show. We love you so much. All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome back to the show. Okay, you all, Susie Said So, Summer Edition was the most frequent episode. And also just a quick note that anything that Susie said or recommended or suggested, and it was shared in our Instagram stories, she has her own highlight on our Instagram page. So if you miss that or like want to see what she suggested or talked about or said or whatever, go check out her highlight. And it will start you from the beginning and go all the way through this most recent episode. But she's worth having her very own highlight, everybody. So welcome to the show. Guess who's back in the studio? Angela Snyder.
Ciao, Bella. I am now bilingual.
Are we?
I'm visiting the States.
Yes.
I now reside in Italia.
I know. Welcome back. You literally just got back. As we're recording this, you just got back a few days ago.
I just got back. It is the afternoon hour where generally I start to crash anyway. And also my body feels like it's 6 hours later than it is.
Oh, sure. It's bedtime.
I had never been to Europe before. I had never been anywhere alone with Kaylee on a trip before. And y'all, I'm ruined.
I'm ruined. Okay. I don't even know where to start because I know that the listeners, like they don't want to know every stinking detail, but we've got to figure it out.
Yeah. And I do have some general, like just generally travel things that might be helpful. My friend Lisa Houston gave me I don't know if it's Italian leather, but it's a leather-bound travel journal that she gave me on our spring break trip. If you or someone you know cares at all about travel, that makes such a great gift. I don't know that I ever would have bought one for myself.
Right.
But, and this is funny, both my travel journal and my Romans Bible study book were the only two books I brought with me on the trip. Never picked up either one other than to repack them in the suitcase. But I am dedicated to taking the notes that I have in my phone and journaling those because I don't want to forget things. But a travel journal makes such a great gift.
Yes.
I had a travel pillow that we approved and we loved. I have never in my life had a travel pillow that I didn't throw on the ground and discuss.
Like on the flight, that kind of travel pillow?
Yes, like on the flight. Yeah. Not like, now I did greatly miss my actual pillow, but that's another story.
Right.
But this one's called an ostrich pillow.
Oh, yes, I've seen them.
Okay.
I don't have one, but I've seen them.
It wraps around. It looks like a neck brace.
Yes.
It wraps around and Velcros. But the other thing, and Kaylee pointed this out, you wind it up and put it inside a case, and then that little case has a clip so you could clip it to your purse or to your bag so it didn't take up space in your personal item, and also it didn't get dirty.
Right.
Because those travel pillows touch everything.
I know.
Highly recommend. And then the other things that worked well for me, Wello, WELLOW, compression socks. They were compressing without restricting. I didn't feel miserable, but I felt adequately compressed.
Right. Isn't that an amazing phenomenon too? You're like, what is happening here?
Yes.
Could someone explain that to me?
Oh my goodness. And I had a moment of panic where I couldn't find them because I was so well organized that I couldn't find the little pocket that they were in, but I found them in time for both flights. And I took your advice and put them on before I got on the airplane. And then
don't put them on the airplane. Good gosh, you're sweating buckets.
Oh.
Those are not like throwing on regular socks.
No, they're not.
It's a situation.
It's an event.
It's an event.
It's a whole thing.
Yes.
And then there was a brand called Dry Water of electrolyte powder that was recommended, and it had a really good taste to it. So we made sure to drink our electrolytes for hydration.
Yes.
We also, Kaylee is very dependent on her Dyson Airwrap for her beautiful curly hair. I found a dupe that is dual voltage. So if you are traveling, we traveled in a carry-on and a personal item, and we were gone for 8 days. And I'm talking about, we had a hairstyling brush, a little baby blow dryer. We had everything under the sun, thanks to compression packing cubes. But I have found, and we can share it in stories, but it worked incredibly well. It was tiny. And because she had a little anxiety over, what am I going to do with my hair?
Sure.
So those are just some general things that I thought might be helpful.
Yes. What did you think about your long flight?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the teeny tiny flight. From Jackson, Tennessee to Atlanta was 48 minutes, I think.
Up, you're down.
Oh, my goodness. They offer you full-size snacks. If you live in Jackson or anywhere close, you can go from here to Chicago or here to Atlanta. It is a dream.
Yes.
It was so fun to take off. This airport, if you're not from around our area, it is on my way home every day, across the street from the new world-famous gas station that's almost ready.
Listen, y'all, we're going to go live at the gas station.
We're going to do a live video at the Shell. But it was so cool to be able to taxi down this runway. My grandparents lived in Denmark, so my whole entire life I've driven past this airport, and it was the first time I've ever flown from that airport. And we flew over our farm and turned around. It was crazy.
Do you know they changed the interstate signs to say Jackson Regional Airport or whatever instead of McKellar Sipes?
Well, aren't we fancy?
I know. So it's got its whole new brand and everything. Wow. Well, fancy people. We fancy.
We are fancy. And I had never been on a flight more than 6 or 7 hours, I think, was Alaska. I did okay. We slept a little bit on the flight there. Coming home was supposed to be 11 hours. It was closer to 10, but it took off at 10 a.m., so I did not want to sleep on that flight. Yeah. And I watched a movie. I was already homesick for Rome, and I had left 30 minutes prior, so I watched Roman Holiday. If you've not watched it, it's so good. And then I listened to several podcasts, and we had Wi-Fi, so I checked email. It was a work day. I was amazed. My leg went to sleep a couple of times. So I kind of walked around a little bit, but they fed us 2 different meals. We were starving. Our bodies thought it was time to eat 4 hours before they actually fed us dinner. And then y'all, you would have thought Kaylee and I were about to start a holy war, because they came through there serving everybody and somehow skipped Kaylee and I and one other person.
No.
And then they were so far back on the plane. And up until that point, we were like, we didn't have snacks. We were not prepared. I don't know how that happened. I will say this, going through the airport in Rome to get on the plane, I had thought in my mind, we have limited space. Do not buy a book and carry it through the whole trip. Just get a book at the airport.
Right.
And also my readers broke.
Oh, no.
So they became not a monocle, but a duolicle. What's a two? They became glasses I had to hold with one hand.
Dang.
So I thought, no big deal. I will find me the new Emily Henry book. I want to read that. And I need some readers. No problem. My cutest, best readers have always come from the airport. Let me tell y'all something. You go to Rome and you look around for things that you expect to have in an airport.
No readers?
No readers and no books.
Huh? They don't read?
We finally found.
They all can see perfectly fine.
They can see well and they are illiterate. We finally found a store that had a small selection of books, and they were all in Italian.
Listen.
Naturally,
We
did get some gum called Air Action, a fresh air explosion. And let me just tell you, I told Fran before we started this, you pop that gum in your mouth and you be ready to make some faces, because it will
give me
clear
one
your
right
breath.
now. Give me one right now.
It's kind of like Pop Rocks for
Here we
grown-ups.
go, people.
Like it's not... it's not fizzy.
What does this look like?
A punch.
This is like a
chiclet.
A chiclet.
Remember the chiclets?
So imagine a chiclet, and it's green in color, and it's going in my mouth right now.
It looks like Scope mouthwash, and it's about to give you a kick in the pants. How you feeling, Fran?
Oh, dang alive. This is like medicine.
It's like ready to make out with somebody is what that is.
It's like
a...
Oh, law.
What was that commercial with the kissing gum?
Yeah.
Brush your breath, brush it clean with Dentyne.
Dang, my throat's on fire. My nose is on fire. Like, this is intense.
It's going to clean out your sinuses.
Show is. Okay. What's it called? Air and Action? Action Air?
Air Action.
Why that? That's an odd name for gum.
We don't question things when we're over there. We just embrace the culture. Air Action. Okay, so, gosh, where to even begin?
So y'all landed.
So we had an 8-hour overnight, in quotes, to London. It was really, our local time was like 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. I did get to watch the Celtics on the plane. They kept me awake. I was trying to sleep, but the Celtics are in the playoffs, and I realized I could watch them. And then we landed in London at Heathrow just temporarily, and all I could think about was Joey Tribbiani saying, "London, baby."
Yeah.
And also when
was this flight full?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing? Yes. What's everybody doing?
What are they all doing? And then Kaylee and I, when we got off at London Heathrow, we were walking, and you know how generally you walk on the right side? But then we thought, well, if they drive on the wrong side of the road, are we supposed to walk on the left side, not the right side? Talk about overthinking.
Yeah.
We were really overthinking it. Lovely airport, every department store, every high-end brand, everything. I had no desire to do all the shopping. But the shuttles, so we had to get on a shuttle bus and like ride in a bus, not just a air tram or whatever, and they were on the wrong side of the road, and they were driving like crazy people. So I was like,
that's always so bizarre.
We're on vacation. But then we got to Venice, and the Uber was on the right side of the road.
Okay.
So in Italy, they drive on the right side of the road.
They're correct people.
That really, I thought all of Europe was backwards.
So London, why are you doing that? Dear London.
Yeah.
Why are you driving on the left side of the road?
And who else does that?
I don't know.
Okay, well.
And who said let's do that?
Right.
Has it always been that way?
And are we right or are they right? Who's wrong?
We're right.
Who's right and who's wrong? So then we get to Venice, and so I'm the queen of travel planning, self-proclaimed, but I realized, and I knew this, that I had planned like a zoomed out, really good itinerary day by day, but I had not honed in on details. And I kind of thought, well, I might do that on the flight, but then I just decided not to.
So where does the story, this is where the story turns a little bit.
So there were some surprises that we embraced as part of the adventure. When I remembered vaguely something about a water taxi, because Venice, you know, is the underwater city.
You told me about it.
So then we land, and you're dazed and confused, and what's happening, and you're getting all your bearings and whatever.
You've been in the same clothes for 4 days. You haven't brushed your teeth.
Lovely.
Maybe you have brushed your teeth. I'd like to wash my face.
It's all just
give
really
me some
something.
water, please.
So then I realized that we can take an Uber. So I'm thinking, well, we'll just Uber and not do a water taxi, thinking the water taxi is just a fun little gondola ride or something.
It took a minute.
What I did not understand, well, we passed a Maserati dealership. That was kind of cool. There were a lot of fancy Italian cars. But the Uber driver let us out in a big parking lot with a whole lot of action, bustling things, and I was just like, and he didn't speak English, so he did his little fingers like you're walking, and he said, "You walk," and I was like,
"Where am I walking?
What did I just pay you 48 euros for?"
Where am I walking to?
But that's literally as far as he could take us. So at that point, we had to get on a water taxi.
Well,
now I knew, because my sister Danielle had prepared me, don't take too many heavy bags because you're going to be dragging them across cobblestones and across bridges. But what I saw was
what time of day is this? Is it like daylight?
This was morning there, but my body thought it was 1 a.m.
Okay.
It was actually 7 a.m.
Yeah. We're a little cranky.
I was lovely. I was very lovely. The sun had started to get really hot. Kaylee and I are trying really hard to not look like we're clueless, wandering aimlessly.
Stressful. You're in another dang country.
There are people all around us that are trying to approach you and offer you rides speaking on English. Things. And then, Fran, I look up, and it's like in those mountains where you look up and your head has to look all the way up. Like, that's what this bridge looked like to me. And people were having to drag their suitcases up.
You wanted to cry. Did you want to cry at that point?
I said some
words.
I didn't say some ugly words, but my tone needed some work.
Okay.
And Kaylee and I were both just, that was the one and only point of the trip where we laugh now, because she was like, every time I see a big bridge, I'm going to think about you going, nope. Because I just looked at that bridge and I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. So we had walked to the right, and then we went back to the left, and then we walked. So anyway, all that to say, we realized we were near the water taxi station. So then we had to get in line and figure out how to buy a water taxi ticket. And are we in the right line and whatever. So that was the only little, other than a train fight, we'll talk about that later, but that was the only real hiccup. And once we figured that out, it was fine. The water taxi was easy to navigate. We got settled in.
Okay, hang on. So does the water taxi just like drop everybody off at a location and then you walk?
It has stops.
It has
just
stops.
like bus stops.
Okay.
So here's what I will say too that I so appreciate. It's so fun to travel with your kids for a lot of reasons, but Kaylee and I had not traveled together. She spent a Maymester in Montreal. She has spent time in Kenya. I've never experienced things in Kaylee that have grown in her.
Right.
Where I will say throughout the trip, the only time I felt like I was struggling, Kaylee was very strong.
Yeah.
And when Kaylee started to melt down a little bit, I was good.
Right.
And thank God for that. We were a sea salt. If we had both melted down at the same time, we probably would have still been sitting at the foot of the bridge in Venice and never gone
with your luggage,
anywhere
crying.
else with our luggage. So we were able, she was like, okay, we need the number 2 line. And it's just like this huge pontoon type boat. And you step onto it and it has like 8 stops. And there's one that goes up the river and one that goes down the river. And it's just, that's how everything's surrounded by water.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people had their own little motorboats and, all the supplies, all the food, all the everything has to be taken by water. There's no other way to access the downtown of Venice. So I didn't realize that.
Right. Well, sure. Like
I thought some of it could be water if you wanted it to be water.
Like that's
but it could
fun.
be land if you wanted it to be. I didn't know.
Well, and that's your first experience. And granted, you're so tired, a little on the cranky. The tone was present.
The sun was hot. I was in a lot of clothes.
Traveling. You got your luggage, but also at the exact same time, there's so much to take in because that's when you're visually absorbing your surroundings, you're hearing things, everything. It's like everything you realize, oh my gosh, this is not Kansas anymore. Like you get it. And you're trying to sort through all of that and like keep it together.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And I told you wrong. The one we landed in 1 a.m. at London and then we took off. So by this time local Italian time, it was 3:00 in the afternoon.
Okay.
It was anyway.
But your body is not 3:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be earlier in the morning. Yeah.
Right.
So by this point also, we've eaten a little bitty plain meal. Angela is hangry, hot, cranky, lost,
with a tone.
Confused, with a tone. A little bit of attitude happening. So it was easily cured because, I've got to tell y'all this too. We get to our hotel and there are a lot of small boutique hotels. And God bless my sister Danielle because y'all, she taught me this 10X travel group, if you're familiar with that. She was able to help us. You get this credit card and get this many points and then do this with this card. Our $6,000 in airfare cost us $600. Our hotels were paid for with points except for one night. Like it was insane how if you know how to use points, you can really do some stuff in the travel world.
People are going to be like, what's Angela's cell phone number?
And listen, I will tell you, like, I have no idea what she did, what kind of hoodoo happened, but I know it works and there are groups and it's a fun thing. But
sign me up for that hoodoo.
But I will also say, this is my sister who has backpacked across Europe and stayed in hostels, and that's something never will I ever care to do. So I was also a little bit thinking, I hope I'm going to be satisfied with what we're doing here. So it was called Hotel Antico Doge. And it was beautiful. And there was a gondola stop right outside our hotel. And when we walked in, keep in mind, everything has stairs because the city can flood. So marble, lots of Italian marble, which echoes. So there is this steep little staircase, and Kaylee and I just imagine the bang, bang, clang, horrible sound.
Loud, obnoxious.
Of hard-sided luggage clanging up a gorgeous staircase. And this middle-aged man in a tuxedo-type suit pops his head around and says, "May I help you?"
Maybe.
And in that moment, we stopped and we were like, it's very quiet and lovely. Like they had a quiet symphony playing in the lobby.
Gosh. Oh, gosh.
And here we come. Clang, clang, clang.
Here come those Americans. Here they come.
I'm sweating. We're almost to the top of the stairs. And this woman had the perfect European bob. She was very sophisticated. She had the perfect little outfit. Very lovely. It was very quiet. very demure. And then we're sweaty and gross and clanging our way up the stairs.
Southern, loud, obnoxious.
We are the Beverly Hillbillies in the most sophisticated environment. So we bang, 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 get settled in. Our hotel room, it had those huge, it reminded me of like The Sound of Music when they throw open the windows, just the big windows with the handles. And we were in a great spot. So we asked the man, we couldn't decide if he hated us or if he just looked serious all the time. We want to believe that we were charming somehow to him. And he gave us some great recommendations. So if you go over there, get away from the tourist spots.
Always.
Any kind of landmark. You go down these little getting lost in each city was our favorite thing we did. But I feel like this deserves to go on stories. My favorite meal was that first night, and it was a pistachio cream sauce.
Yes, and that picture, I was like, what is that? Does that look good? Because it doesn't look...
It does not look good.
No, it doesn't look yummy and like, oh, I want that.
It does not look good.
You posted a picture of a pizza that I was like, oh, I want that.
But it was a pistachio cream sauce on homemade pasta with scallops. And the appetizer they brought us was sauteed vegetables, carrots and eggplant and zucchini and broccoli, and everything was so fresh. Let me also say, I lost 2 pounds eating dessert, eating, like we ate bread and pasta. Never felt heavy, never felt full. It makes you absolutely hate whatever version of that food we have here.
Yeah, it's gross.
Because
it's
it
terrible.
Was so incredible.
Is the menu in English?
Well, it was in Italian, but they did have some words and phrases. And there are a lot of visitors from England, and there's. I would forget, British people also would need an English version, and they're frequent visitors there. So I think that helped us a lot. And some of them had several different languages. But what we learned, so this restaurant had been owned, and all the ones we ate at, we found ones that had been owned for generations by a family. And what you do is you just say, you tell me what I'm interested in ordering.
Right.
And we just let them order for us.
Sure.
And that's where he recommended that pistachio. I would have never ordered pistachio gelato.
No.
I got that every single time. And y'all, it does not look like mint green chocolate chip ice cream.
Yeah.
It looks like dull brown. I don't even know. It does not look appetizing, but it does not have the artificial.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. So, and also you have to ask for the bill. They let you just sit there. They think it's great to have you just take your time and linger.
That's one of the things about different cultures is that I appreciate the way that they handle a meal.
Yes.
Or just time in general. Like this is not even comparable, but it gets the point across, is that like whenever I'm in Kenya, they'll joke about, well, you're on Kenyan time. Like you might say, oh, we'll be there at 5:00, but don't panic because that may be 7.
It may or may not mean
and so that's okay. But everybody's okay with that.
Also, if you go, you do not ask for Parmesan cheese. That's considered to be offensive because the chef cooked it how the chef thinks it ought to be cooked.
Right.
So the waiter kind of scoffed at me.
Sure.
And then the other thing you don't do, and I'm not a coffee drinker, but you don't order a cappuccino after lunchtime. You order espresso.
Okay.
So when the table next to us ordered cappuccino, he straight up laughed in her face.
Oh, I love it.
Like not being ugly.
No, but that's how you learn things.
That's how you learn.
That's how you learn about the culture. And I so appreciate that.
And I did not realize that Pinocchio and Albert Einstein would have their little faces everywhere. They have strong connections to Venice.
Okay. There's your fun fact for the day.
We slept with our windows open, and we were right beside the sidewalk, but we were up on the second floor. But to fall asleep listening to people walking past the windows and just hearing all the different accents and the conversations.
Did you feel like you're in a movie? Like, this is real?
I still do.
Yeah.
Kaylee and I both are like, did that really just happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the magical part of it, is like you're in a dream.
Yes.
And then you have to get out of it to really like look at it and see, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Because you're just trying to figure things out in the moment.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And then my husband is texting saying, I can't wait to see pictures. If you see any birds, make a video. Birdman is interested in that. And all we saw, we called them the scary pigeons.
Well, they're everywhere.
You could hold your arms out and they would land on your arms.
And that's creepy to me.
I would never do that.
No. I don't like that.
But the
anybody need a bird buddy?
Oh my goodness gracious!
Y'all have bird buddies over here?
The next day we went to St. Mark's Cathedral and the Doge's Palace, and it was so cool. And there was a Roman prison cell underneath it and they called it is it the Bridge of Sighs? We both let out a deep sigh as we walked across, but it's how they would walk to the prison. It was like their last, like you knew you were walking to your impending doom. And all I could think about was, like, we were in Venice. That's not where Paul was. But I was like, Kaylee, just imagine, like, when Paul is in prison, like, it's in this country. It would have been similar time. It just to see a visual of that. And then they had this in the Doge's Palace. They had a lion box, and it was a lion head with an open mouth. And they were so invested in, like, self-governing and, like, the people speaking up if they saw any form of treason. You could anonymously report somebody that was not being loyal to the government and drop it into the lion's mouth. And then you could see on the other side, like in all the different courtrooms, you could just see, I had a deep appreciation for just seeing how all the things played out. And the other thing we noticed, and this is probably because all of our chicken has so much, steroids and antibiotics, and we're all massive, huge people. Their benches where they would sit and their ceilings, like, the people were small. Really? They were small. Every archway, I almost had to duck walking through a lot of the things in the palace. And you would imagine they would be bigger. I don't know. But and then we kept, stairs everywhere. I cannot tell you. My Apple Watch thought I had been stolen because it was like, you've never walked 12 flights of stairs on a daily basis for a week before. What is happening? But Venice, we did a gondola ride they're all the same price for the same amount of time, but you could pay a little bit more and go further. And of course, I had to do that. Let's do that. Yeah. And the owner was like, I'll take him out, probably because we paid a little more for that one. So he took us out, and he was so funny. He sang the whole entire time, but then he would point. It was supposed to be a tour, and that's what we paid more for. So he'd start pointing things out, but he spoke really fast, and he had a very thick Italian accent. So we decided to just create our own version of what we thought he was saying.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know exactly what he said, but the floors in the cathedrals, like the tiles, the teeny tiny tiles, and just how they placed. It was just like a mosaic. There were people touching the floor just to see if it was real. Just teeny tiny pieces that just made up the whole thing.
And I said to you, like, when we would text back and forth, that in the United States, like, modern architecture is nothing like that. We don't have an appreciation for that here because we don't see it anywhere. I mean, we might see for me, like, the only place I've been in the U.S. where I could appreciate some of this would be in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, we think that's old.
Right.
But we're looking at 1300s and 1400s, and my little brain is just like, I'm sorry, I can't figure that out. We had, that day too, we had lobster pasta. And they brought out the little cracker things, like to crack open the lobster with. And I had flashbacks to when I went to Maine, and they brought me an actual whole lobster. And I was like, that's not what I thought I ordered. And then the guy beside us said, when he was ordering, he read something about fresh pasta. And the guy was like, all of our pasta's fresh. Like, don't even offend me by saying fresh pasta. Everything was so fresh. And the lobster was fine. They cracked it open for us. I was worried about what I'd done. But there was a bookstore that Kaylee wanted to go to called Aqua Alta Bookshop. And they have their books in gondolas. So if it floods, the books will float.
Oh, wow.
And also they're famous for their cats.
Yeah.
There were cats walking around.
No.
On all the displays, climbing around.
Were there people like afraid of cats that are not like locals? Because what if you were like literally afraid of cats or allergic or something?
I never saw.
I'd be screaming. Yeah. Oh my God, there's a cat walking across all these books.
And there's just all these very narrow, because you're in Venice, there's no cars. So the cobblestone streets might be 6 feet wide, or they might open up to 20 feet wide, but it was just like sidewalks surrounded by shop after shop. And then when we would just get lost in the city. So you could tell when you were closer to a residential area because it's like, oh, there's a hardware store in that teeny tiny space. And then, I mean, just every single thing you need. It would be a high-end department store next to, somebody selling leather purses. There was a Hard Rock Cafe.
Oh, wow.
That originated in Jackson, Tennessee.
Not sure how I feel about that being over there.
I know.
Like, this is random.
But my favorite part is when we got off the gondola, we just decided to roam. And we had... Gosh, I think we had 20,000 steps just about every day. I felt like Fran in New York City, but we realized we were starting to see a lot of children. And then we were like, oh, we must be near a school, and school's being dismissed. And it was so cute to see the kids running up and down, because you're at a canal, and they would be on either side of the canal and cross over the bridge and race each other on either side. And they would play soccer just in a little concrete alley because they didn't have a park. It was just very, very
but
different.
Isn't it sweet to see, like, when you think about it, places are places, people are people. Everybody's still doing the same thing. You're still living life. It just looks different. It sounds different, but soccer's still soccer. Yep. You still have homes. And I know that sounds so like, of course you do, but
when you see it and you're looking at the mama, looking at the child and the granddaddy.
It's all the same. We're all the same.
It's such a small world.
It is.
It is such a small world. We took a train, whatever day it was. We had 2 or 3 days in each place, but we took a train to Florence, and there we did some guided tours that I loved. I highly recommend. It's called Get Your Guide app, and you can just go on there and they'll connect you. Every experience we had was wonderful. But it's called Affogato. And it's espresso coffee on top of...
We get that in the Dominican.
Okay. I'd never heard of it.
They serve it in the Dominican. And it's such a big deal. It's delicious. It's like a dessert, really.
Well, she loved it. The line was incredibly long. In Florence, everybody keeps saying, what was your favorite? It's like saying, what's your favorite child? There's you love them all for different reasons. The Uffizi Art Gallery. Y'all, I did not know. And Kaylee thinks this is the funniest thing, so forgive me for being dumb. I did not know that the David statue was David from the Bible holding a sling and a stone. I was just apprehensive about the fact that this man has no clothes on, and he's very, very large in this room, and we're all going to look at him. And I was like, I'm going with my kid to look at a naked man. Where do I look? Where do other people look? How do we handle this? What is happening? But you get in that room, and from across you forget that the man's naked because you're not even noticing things. You're just looking at the fact that, okay, his eyeballs look real. The veins on his arm, you can see them from 20 feet away.
Wow.
How did Michelangelo, and our guides were so passionate. We had Pam from Great Britain at the Uffizi. We saw, oh my gosh, you see so much art. You get a crick in your neck from looking up at all I told Kaylee, I wish they could wheel us around on gurneys so we could just look up the whole time.
Because again, we don't have anything like that in the U.S.
Nothing. One beautiful ceiling after another, and they all start running together.
Think about how long it took to build things, to make things, to create that, to put it together.
And how long ago? Oh my gosh. And then these huge marble statues. You make one little misstep, you don't get a do-over. Plaster you can add to. Marble, all you can do is take away. And then the leather. Kaylee and I got handbags and got Cole a leather portfolio and a wallet. And the man showed us, he took his cigarette lighter and set his portfolio on fire. I was like, what are you doing? But it never showed a burn mark. And he said if there was any plastic in it at all, the plastic would melt. And that's how you know it's real leather. I'm not telling Cole that. I don't want him to burn things in my house. But I thought that was really interesting.
It's fascinating because I didn't know that. And then now you're like,
everything I own will melt.
Yes, right.
What I just brought back from there. We were on a rooftop with no idea what was happening at first. We were on a rooftop in Florence, and I was FaceTiming with Carl and the bells were ringing. And he finally said, how long are those bells going to ring? I thought it was top of the hour. So I was like, maybe. But then I realized it has been going on a while. And he said, oh, my goodness, do you think they've announced the new pope? Yes. That had never entered my mind. But guess what?
Yes.
We were on a rooftop in Florence.
Yes.
Ringing the bells to announce the new pope, who is an American. And that was just...
That was crazy.
Such a moment in time.
I was watching that happen. It was during lunchtime here. And I was watching that happen. I'd gone home for lunch and I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, they're about to announce a pope. And Angela, who grew up Catholic, is in Italy. Holy smokes. Does she know this is happening? Pay attention, Angela.
Listen, it was crazy. And I will also say this, because all of our rent, like my Marriott points paid for the 3 nights in Rome, the other points paid for the other hotel. I only had to pay for 1 night in Florence. And I justified taking our whole week of hotel budget.
Yes.
And spending it all. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it.
Yes. So and I'm so glad you did.
We got a rooftop suite. And still, it was less than what we would have spent. You know, I'd figured $250 a night on hotel. We still came out good. But it was like The Sweet Life with Zach and Cody. Or Beverly Hillbillies Gone, Pretty Woman. I don't know. But Kaylee and I were acting like such idiots over, oh my gosh, look at this. Acting like we had no sense and had never been anywhere, but we thought we were alone and it didn't matter. And then we realized that the rooftop bar where everybody else could go to the roof was adjacent to us. So the workers had access to a prep room where they could hear us acting like idiots who had never been anywhere and had no sense. But hopefully they just know how grateful we were.
But again, it's different when you're in America experiencing like the best of the best hotel experience.
Yes.
Like that's just different.
Yes.
And then you're in another country where the scenery, the landscape is different. The sounds are different. The smell is different. Everything is different.
And the then Duomo,
it's just heightened. It's just absolutely heightened. And it's just different. So all of a sudden you're acting like an idiot.
We were.
Because
and I don't apologize for it. We were twirling around acting like crazy people. Anytime you find a restaurant where they have handwritten on paper the specials, every restaurant we found, I don't even know what that menu said, but we were like, hey, just bring us what you think we need to eat. There were, on one of our tours, the couple was from Texas, and we told him that we were from Tennessee, and he said, oh, our daughter went to Belmont.
Oh, my word.
Said, well, Kaylee's headed to Belmont, and he raised up his sweatshirt, and he had on a Belmont t-shirt.
Oh, see, that's just nuts to me.
Then, when we got done with Florence, we went to Rome, and our very first experience in Rome, and Kaylee did the cutest video. We'll have to share it. But she said, imagine your first time seeing Rome is flying backwards in the dark over cobblestones on a golf cart. Y'all, we were seat belted in, thank goodness, or I might not be here today. But we booked a nighttime golf cart tour from 8 p.m. to 11. It is the best money I spent on any tour anywhere. This Italian man had us and another couple flying through. It was a little scary at times because we were on the main highways whipping in and out on a golf cart with tours and taxis and everything else. But we saw the sunset, and then we saw the Colosseum. We saw Trevi Fountain. We saw all the landmarks at night lit up. It was incredible. But there was one couple with us on the golf cart, and they were from Cookeville, Tennessee.
Can't even.
And I said, the cobblestones were beating us to death at one point. And he said, oh, it's okay. We're used to this. We drive I-40. And I said, who would have ever guessed that we would go to Rome and make a joke about the potholes on I-40 with somebody who knew exactly what we were talking about. So we, the last day, I'm trying to just wrap this up. It's so much to tell. But the last day, our tour guide, we took a bus to Amalfi Coast and Positano. And our tour guide, he was 21. Fran, you would have Kaylee said, Mom,
bring him back home with us.
It's weird that you're talking about him so much. And I said, you don't understand. Fran and I love college kids. We love cheering y'all on. We love seeing y'all do incredible things. His name was Flavio.
Not Fabio.
Flavio.
But Flavio.
Flavio. And he had just dark curly hair, cute little glasses. He
looked
was
Italian.
So excited. We found out at the end that his daddy had run this tour company for years. He's only worked for 2 months. He was such a he pointed out Mount Vesuvius. We passed Pompeii. And he had so many fun and funny things to share with us, informative. And at the end, he got emotional. And he said, this is where I apologize for getting emotional, but you Americans being curious about Italy supports our economy. And so beautiful. He was like, please be curious. And I also learned that I like to now collect beach towels.
Okay.
Isn't that a fun thing to collect?
Yes. Who knew?
Because my family has taken, not my family, the boys in my family who can be really gross, have taken a lot of my towels and used them outside with animals and such.
Yes.
So I've started a beach towel collection.
Okay.
But if you're just trying to figure out what to collect, and then also postcards make the best souvenirs. They're easy to pack when you don't have much space. They're beautiful. The one I brought you is like, they're frame worthy. Yeah. So, gosh.
Okay, as we have our last 5 minutes of conversation, how do there's so much to absorb in an experience like this. And again, sometimes it takes coming home to really sit and reflect on what you just did. And so, oh my word, how did you look at the land, experience the culture, through the lens of your faith, or just an appreciation of maybe a deeper understanding of how big God is, and we are such a small, tiny piece in the United States, in Jackson, Tennessee, and the work that he's doing, the beauty that he's created through people and cultures and food and like all of that. Like, how did you sort through all of that through your faith and understanding of who the Lord is and where you were?
I love that you asked that, because you challenged me early on, or just helped me be mindful of, I embraced and loved feeling so small in the sense that, I mean, I just kept having this moment with the Lord of like, who am I to be worthy that you see me, that you know me, that you love me? When you're in Rome and I've got a video of Kaylee knocking on the door at the entrance at the Pantheon. They've got the largest working doors. Some of these structures were there. These statues were there. These people we read about in Scripture were, the idol worship, the statues, the false gods. It was all right there. And I thought, how sad that they put their hope in something hopeless. And then how, it just opened my eyes to, I don't want to take for granted what it cost Jesus to give me that access. I love that I don't have, on these tours, they would point things out, and they were so great about informing. And there's a cross in the Colosseum. There are a lot of places where they've either given things to the Vatican to preserve them and create memorials for Christians. So many men died in the Colosseum in the games, and they just the fact that there is some respect for that and some recognition of that. The main thing I did that I needed just a reset in my brain. I have got such a fresh perspective and excitement for reading my Bible since I've been home. I told you, I want to find everywhere the word Rome is in the whole entire Bible and go back and what do I know about Rome? Where were they? What, Peter and Paul and just all the things that I've always heard about Rome. But now I'm like, hold on, I've been there.
Right.
When we did the tour of the Colosseum, we did the Roman Forum and Palatine Hill as well. And they called it archaeological lasagna because you could see where the Tiber River flooded and sediment built up on top of old things, cobblestone roads and buildings, and then they would rebuild on top of that, and then it would flood and more sediment. So there's a whole city buried underneath. That's the older parts, but then there was part of it where it was washed away, where you could see a cross section of it. And I told Kaylee, I said, I don't think the road we're on is actually where Paul stood, but he was on this ground. He was looking at these trees. He was in this space when he was here. And this morning I have gone back. I've been in Romans, I've been in Acts, I've been all over the place. But this morning I was in Acts 28 when Paul arrives in Rome. And it really struck me just with fresh perspective, because Paul was trying to convince the people about Jesus from the law of Moses and from the prophets. And it says some were convinced by what he said, but others disbelieved. And he says, you will indeed hear, but never understand, and you will see, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and with their ears they can barely hear, and their eyes they have closed. Lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and turn, and I would heal them. And I just wrote beside it, let my heart be tender and responsive.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss it. Mm-hmm. And I've missed it. I've been, in stressful seasons hit, and we just get in a place where we're not as in our Bibles.
We live in the world, and what we've been tasked to do and what we're supposed to be stewarding and shepherding, and we're just doing things.
Yes.
We're not
motions, going through the motions.
Going through the motions. And I hate it that sometimes why can't I experience that all the time? I don't want to have to go away and come back, and then we know we're going to slip back into old ways and patterns. But what does happen is that this isn't some experience that's isolated over here. It now shapes you. It now forms you. It's now a part of your story, and it doesn't live over there, and it's not finished. The Lord's not going to do that. It's woven into who you are now and who you're becoming, and that's really sweet. And I love that. Just a better love of him and his world and the people. And we've just been entrusted with a very small piece of it, but yet it's a very important piece because this is where we are.
I feel like I'm more aware of my blind spots. I've been lulled to sleep in ways that I think I'm awake again. And you may be listening thinking, well, that's good for you, but I can't go to Italy right now. Right. But all of us can. There are so many ways we can reset. 99% of it for me is getting away from that stupid cell phone.
Right.
And I was so off my phone and so present with my child, and that was such a gift. And I will never take that for granted. But I do think sometimes you just need a minute just to change your scenery.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Could be just going out in your backyard for a little bit.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm so grateful. We're going to put, Angela's going to have her own highlight. Italy will have its own Instagram highlight, because there's stuff in here that you may want to go back to and be like, hey, I want to plan a trip a year from now. What did she have to say about all that?
And I did on my personal Facebook and Instagram. If you are not following me or we're not friends and you want to connect on Facebook or Instagram, on my personal page, I did a post for each city that we went to with some of the highlights. And I'm happy to answer questions. By no means am I an expert, but 2 little bumpkins from Denmark, Tennessee did just fine without much preparation.
Well, listen, I love it. I think it's so great. I'm so glad that y'all had that experience. And
I'm ready to go everywhere now.
Listen.
Like, where are we going next?
Yes. Clay and I are planning a October fall break trip.
Oh, good.
I said, Clay, we're going to have to ask Angela. We've got 3 days, 3 full days in Italy. What do we do?
Gosh.
Okay. All right, guys. This is the next to the last episode of the season. And so our final episode that will release next week, we have a lot of fun things, encouraging things, hopeful, exciting, new things to talk about. I think it's going to be a fun conclusion to this season. And then maybe over the summer, we'll have a couple of bonus episodes. But what a fun opportunity recording to just listen to you talk about your trip. So thank you for sharing everything with us.
Thank y'all for listening.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Listen, have a super duper great week. We love you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. All right. Thanks for listening, you guys. There is an Instagram highlight titled Italy. Everything that is shared over the Instagram stories that's tied to this conversation will be saved in our own highlight so that you have it as a point of reference if you need it. Okay, we'll see you next week. We love you guys.